Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. It is only 18 days away, the World Championship of Darts. We've been building to it for many months on the channel. The seedings were confirmed as of yesterday. The final three qualifiers were confirmed as of today, Monday, the 28th of November. And then this evening, live on Sky Sports News, there was the draw for the first and second round of the World Championships, which is set to start on the 16th of December. Just as a quick recap, there's 96 players in the field. They've qualified in all wonderful different means and manners, which we're going to touch on. There's 64 players in the first round, and then another 32, the 32 seeded players, the ones you can see on the screen there in grey with a number in brackets beside their name. They are the seeds. They come in the second round. So the first and second round draws have been done, and there's four quarters as well, as you can see. I've got Pieman with me. We're going to just call out. We've got no notes or script this evening, Pieman. There's no agenda other than talking about what's come out of the draw. There's been some cracking first round ties. We've mentioned the likes of Josh Rock before. Bo Greaves is in there as well. And then they've obviously been drawn into the separate quarters. The seedings are confirmed. There's all sorts to talk about. And we're going to touch on the betting as well. But Pieman, first reaction to the draw.
Yeah, always an exciting time, this, isn't it? When the draw comes out, you start mapping potential routes to victory and stuff. And look, I wouldn't dwell too much on the draw. I love it from being a darts fan. I love potential matchups. I like working out what may happen on what date and who's going to clash when and stuff. But with the caveat that whatever draw you get, you're going to come up against quality opponents, but at the latest the third round. I would say that some of these seeded players, if you get a particularly generous draw, then you might think, my second round draw looks very winnable and I quite fancy my third round draw. It's not going to be easy beyond that because every sort of, as you can see with the draw on the screen here, every sort of 2 or 3 lines, you've got what I would describe as a top quality player, and they will start to meet. However, as we see every single year, parts of the draw tend to open up a lot better than others. A couple of early exits of big names, and suddenly you've got, really favourable looking quarters versus a quarter that might look absolutely stacked. It's very difficult to predict which quarters are going to collapse and which quarters are going to hold their form. But we can have a good go looking through that now and try to work out where the value may be for anyone looking to get involved at this stage. Obviously, we've been having little bits and pieces throughout the season, or I have certainly. But, some people, well, many people will be now approaching December and starting to think, okay, want to have a couple of bets on the darts. Who am I going to go for? And look, there's still some terrific value out there, in my opinion. Players at really juicy prices who would give you a run for your money. But there's also been a lot of money for some familiar faces as well. So, yeah, maybe we should just dive in with that first quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where you'll find the number one seed, the number one in the world, which is Gerwyn Price. So yeah, he's going to be in there against Luke Woodhouse, against a player that I've never heard of, Pieman. And even with your knowledge, even I'm going to be impressed if you have heard or know anything about Vladislav Omelnichenko, because you are going to be doing a preview video on that man.
Yeah, Vladislav Omelnichenko, I know a little bit about him. Not an awful lot. I don't think anyone knew an awful lot about him. Fair play to him. The first ever Ukrainian representative at the World Championships. All the more admirable given what is going on in Ukraine at the moment. So I'm sure it'd be a really nice moment to see him come out on the Ali Pali stage. Unfortunately, I did notice that he qualified with an average, which I believe was around 70. So Vladislav, unless he's got gears that we haven't seen, could have a tough time against Luke Woodhouse. He's one of those where it's just a fantastic achievement for him to qualify. Like, you've got to put a bit of perspective on it. There's no kind of Ukrainian dart circuit for this man to be playing on. So he really is a pioneer, a flag bearer. I don't think he'll get past Luke Woodhouse. Luke Woodhouse potential banana skin for Gerwyn Price over a short format. I've talked about Luke Woodhouse a couple of times this year. My problem with him on TV is that he hasn't really translated his floor form. But then I thought we did see him really turn up and make a good fist of it in the Grand Slam of darts. He was unlucky not to get through out of his group. That kind of form, he'd give Gerwyn Price a scare. But I think he'll be fairly happy with that first game as an opener for him. I noticed that he is going to have a potential third round tie with Raymond van Barneveld. He must be getting fed up of seeing this man. Barney beating him not once but twice at the Grand Slam of darts, beating him in the groups and the knockouts. So that is got to be one of the standout round 3 games should both progress. Barney probably going to play Ryan Meikle. Lisa Ashton's record at Ali Pali, pretty dire. Ryan Meikle, like many of the players in this draw, dangerous on his day, but Barney will fancy that. So I don't really see an upset there.
It's good you mentioned Barney. Sorry, Pieman. He was the 32nd in the order of merit, and he's only recently gone in there. He wasn't in jeopardy necessarily going into the Players' Championship finals, but the Grand Slam certainly helped him get there. So yeah, he's the 32 seed. Otherwise, he would have been played in the first round itself. Not only recently just got his tour card back and obviously played really well at the Grand Slam. So yeah, the top
interesting
30...
point as well. While you mentioned that, the 33rd seed is Adrian Lewis. Yeah. So Adrian Lewis has gone unranked as a result of Barney's performance late in the last month. And as we'll see later in the draw, I mean, Adrian Lewis now finds himself potentially playing Damon Hector in round 2. So that is just how important it can be to have that seeding, you know.
Yeah, so the top 32 in the overall order of merit go obviously straight into this. And then the next 32 in the Pro Tour order of merit, the Pro Tour rankings that are not in the top 2 of the overall rankings, if you catch me drift there. And that's where Adrian Lewis comes in. He is the 5th best of those in the Pro Tour rankings that are not in the order of merit rankings, and Josh Rock tops that from the Pro Tour order of merit, who we'll come on to. So that's 64 players covered. Then there's another 32 of international qualifiers. That's where the ladies come in. There were 3 positions gained today. The final 3, Richie Burnett, Ryan Joyce, and someone else who you're going to hopefully confirm, Pieman.
Jeff Smith from Canada.
Jeff Smith, yeah. So anyone that has a Pro Tour, anyone that has a PDC Pro card that wasn't already qualified had the opportunity to qualify today. Those 3 did it. And then you've got all sorts of, as you say, Ukrainian qualifiers, Central and Southern America, PDC Development Tour, that someone's from Down Unders, African qualifier, all sorts in there. But yeah, just on that, going back to that first quarter, Pieman, the one that stands out to me, Bo Greaves. Some people might have issue with the way I've spoken about the likes of Fallon and Lisa, particularly recently, but Bo Greaves has been sensational, and I think she is good enough to cause many people problems. She would have hoped for an easier draw than Willie O'Connor, because Willie O'Connor, of those unseeded players, is one of the most capable. And Bo's drawn William O'Connor there, but Gabe Clemens, we've already seen him lose to a female on the big stage previously. He could be coming. The same could be happening again. There's 3 females that the crowd are going to get behind in this tournament, and Bo Greaves has been sensational this year. So I'm really hoping that she turns up and wins. But quite frankly,
yeah, and you're right, Willie O'Connor. It's an interesting dynamic for him, because I've flagged him up before as a little bit of a giant killer at the Worlds. You know, doesn't do a lot through the year, and then turns up and beats like one of the top 32 at the Worlds virtually on an annual basis. He's going to be, it's role reversal here. Bo Greaves, is the underdog with the crowd behind her, and Willie O'Connor's got to deal with that. I think he can deal with it. It just remains to be seen how well Bo can play on the big stage. We know that she has averaged in the 70s and 80s this year, but she's also averaged plenty in the 90s and 100s. So if she brings her best game, which I kind of expect her to, then yeah, Willie O'Connor's had the nightmare draw there. And you're right, Gabe Clemens is one to, that they won't mind taking on in terms of the seeds. That little mini section, actually, with Clemens and Wade in, you'd be pretty happy as a qualifier to be in that section, because neither of them are too terrifying. Like we've seen Wade year on year, he kind of just like, if nobody turns up and averages a ton, he'll get through. But equally, that if you bring your best, you can beat him. And
Noppert brushed him at the weekend.
I think Jim Williams here must be rubbing his hands quietly. I mean, he's won a Pro Tour event this year. He's gone off the boil a little bit in the last couple of months, but very capable player, experienced, TV experience aplenty, so no problems with there. Sebastian Bielecki's a good up-and-comer, but I think Williams will have his measure on the TV. And then I think he can serve it up to James Wade as well. I think it's a really tough draw for James Wade, that if it is Jim Williams. And, would you be that surprised to see Jim Williams versus Willie O'Connor or Bo Greaves in round 3? I wouldn't personally. We should just run through the other seeds quickly in that quarter. So Ryan Searle and Jose de Souza, again, probably 2 of the more vulnerable seeds on form.
Well, saying that, though, Ryan Searle, as he has done for the last 2 years, well, this year, particularly this year, has done
Turns
naff
up
all. Because
at
I
Players'
really like
Champs.
Ryan Searle. He's done naff all, and then he turns up at Minehead and was in a fantastic game with Dirk, one of the games of the year. And he could be just coming back to form at the right time. And I tell you, he'll be rubbing his hands. I don't think he's in particularly great form. He hasn't been for a while. Whitlock to Sousa in the second round is one of the matches of the round, potentially.
Yeah, because Whitlock, talk about TV experience, Whitlock's been here more than most on that graphic, and Jose is just not in a great spot compared to where he has been in previous, the last couple of Ali Pallies. Whitlock looks ripe for an upset there, if you can even call it an upset. I don't know, because he did play well at the Grand Slam recently. Whitlock going out 10-8, I think, to Barney. Searle bounced back to form, but then again, over the course of the year, it's hard to trust him, and he has a tough second round game there. I think Adam Gaulas, the up and coming Czech player, probably struggling for consistency at the moment, but certainly has the game in his locker. And Richie Burnett, to qualify today, had to average 107. So I mean, that's not a man to be sniffed at. 1995 BDO world champion. Talk about longevity. He beat Raymond van Barneveld in that final, and they could potentially meet in round 3, which would be quite funny. Round 4, sorry. But just two seeds that we haven't mentioned in this quarter. Daryl Gurney, who I think I'm quite happy to take on with Alan Suter, who I think will get the better of Mal Cumming, and Danny Noppert, who I think will be the happiest man of the entire draw. I honestly do. The bottom section of quarter 1 just looks absolutely ready-made for Danny Noppert to me. I think he beats Richie Edhouse or Dave Cameron in his first game. I think I would fancy him against Suter or Gurney. And then over the longer format, I think he's more than capable of grinding down any of those 6 names above him. So I'd be very surprised if Danny Noppert wasn't in at least the 4th round. And then you're potentially facing a Gerwyn Price or a Van Barneveld. But when you're in the last 16 of the World Championships, of course, you're going to be playing someone top quality. I think, all you can look at as one of these sort of middle tier guys is, have I got a realistic run towards the last 16? Danny Noppert, if he plays his usual stuff, should be making the last 16 here.
Well, I put him up at the weekend pie, and he went, he went close-ish with Van Gerwen for a bit.
Well, look, you put him up on your Players' Championship preview, expertly picked out, I would say. I had a look myself independently, and we both landed on the same price of Danny Noppert, 50-1. And yes, the quarter opened up, but after day 1, he was down to like 12-1, third or fourth favourite. So that was a wrong price. He bumped into Michael Van Gerwen in imperious form, so it doesn't make it a bad bet because he lost to Van Gerwen. But I think what Noppert's showing is a fantastic level of reliability. He's almost always going to turn up and play his game, and that game's got levels to it as well. So I think, I mentioned at the top of the shop that there's some value to be had for anyone wanting to get involved now. If you can still get 40-1 on Danny Noppert for the World Championships as an each way prospect, there's a lot worse bets, because, as I say, I'm very much expecting him to get to the last 16. And then, if you've got a 40-1 running in the last 16, it's so that is that he's an angle for me. Obviously, the quarter is ultimately all about Gerwyn Price. And I always say with Gerwyn Price, if you're going to get him out, you've got to get him out early, because he grows into tournaments. Now, I'm very intrigued to see how Luke Woodhouse gets on with him, if it is Luke Woodhouse. And then it's the Barney factor in it. If Barney's there and Barney fancies it, who knows?
So the quarter betting, you might get better prices than these. I've had to go to a single supplier because it's not an odds checker yet. Gerwyn Price 11-10 as you'd expect. Noppert's 9-2. Wade's 13-2. Too sure. Ryan Searle's 9. Gurney 12. Barney 12. Our Gurney is the same price as Barney. I mean, it's only because he's got to go price in that section. D'Souza's 14, Whitlock 22, 33, and bigger the rest. Anyone
I would like to one. I would maybe just flag, and I know he's in Noppert's mini section, but Alan Suter. What price is he for the quarter? If you were looking for an absolute outside chance, 50 maybe.
No, he's not that big. That's playing up a little bit. That Suter's 33 for the section.
Well, look, he's probably gonna beat Mal Cumming on everything we've seen of Mal Cumming on the World Series, and then I would expect him to turn Daryl Gurney over on form. So yeah, if you're looking for an outsider in the section, Alan Suter may be the man.
Right, on to quarter two. That's where you're going to find Michael Smith, the Grand Slam winner. Not the easiest of first round draws there for Michael Smith. Schindler, a player that we've been keeping an eye on. Heta as well, as you've already mentioned. Luke Humphries, number 5 in the world now, never been higher. Another obviously interesting section. I would go as far to say, Pine Man, that the unseeded players in this section aren't as good or banana skinish as those in the first section we looked at. Lewis and Gilding being the standout. After that, there's not a whole lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, players that look. Most of these players are capable, but how often do they produce it is what we kind of measure the banana skin rating on, or are they in particularly good form? Jermaine Watamina is someone that we've overlooked for most of this year because we can't trust him, and then he's found form in the last 2 or 3 months. Would I normally fancy him even in form against Michael Smith? No, but the short format does make it interesting. You know, he could potentially go with Smith. To be honest, I expect Smith to get past Watamina or Rafferty without too much trouble. And I think he'd be fairly content taking on one of Martin Schindler or Martin Lukeman, not to overlook the Japanese qualifier. But I think Martin Lukeman will have enough about him, especially after his Grand Slam of Darts escapades and his Euro Tour escapades, to see off the Japanese contender. And I think Lukeman versus Schindler is an interesting game, but either of them I don't think beats Michael Smith. So I think if you're a Michael Smith backer, and there will be a few, especially off the back of his recent breakthrough major win, then you'd be fairly happy with how that draw's come out in the initial stages at least. Joe Cullen and Damon Heta is a really nasty little section, because then you also have to chuck into the mix Adrian Lewis. Adrian Lewis will be delighted to be getting Daniel Larsson in the first round, someone who we've seen a lot of, and we kind of know his ceiling. So Lewis knows if he plays his game.
Well, his ceiling is round 1 of the Worlds. That's his ceiling.
Yeah, harsh, but probably fair. I'm not going to argue it too strongly. Yeah, wouldn't be if you were hand picking one of the qualifiers, Daniel Larsson would be near the top of the list, without disrespecting him. But then, for all the pleasure of getting Daniel Larsson, you then got Damon Heta, and that's a really, really interesting one, because Damon won't mind is saying, good friend of the channel, but his TV results this year have been bitterly disappointing for all he's done on the floor. And he has been in the top 3 players in the world across 2022 on the floor. Some would say the top 1, and I wouldn't argue too strongly. But the main problem I have there with getting behind Damon is this TV form. I really want him to do it, but if we're comparing with Adrian Lewis, for example, Adrian Lewis's TV form is sensational. I mean, the man is a multiple world champion. He's done it all before. He actually raises his game on TV, whereas Damo's got these, couple of edgy moments.
I'll give you Damon Heta, because it's like you say, it is tough because it's not been great on TV. He's finished. He was the number 1 ranked player from the 30 Players Championship events, and he went out in the first round. Right, so his floor form has been brilliant. Stage form a long way from brilliant. He's gone out in the first round this year of the Grand Prix, the Match Play, the European Championship, the Players Championship finals, all 3 Masters events on home soil down under, and the Grand Slam group stage.
Yeah, it makes for a horrendous reading, and I'm sure Damon would hold his hands up and say how disappointed he is about that. And yeah, I just worry about him having his first game against Adrian Lewis.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the last thing he would have wanted, wouldn't it? Because that crowd's going to be so pro Adi Lewis. Whereas I'm looking at a lot of these qualifiers thinking they'd probably be supporting Damo in most of those games, but not against Lewis.
Just on that second quarter, right? The 4th seed, as you can see, is Michael Smith. The 5th seed is Luke Humphries. I would much prefer to be Luke Humphries in this draw than Michael Smith. Because Smith, just the 3 names directly below him, Schindler, Cullen and Heta, I would much rather take on Van der Voort, Chisnall and Bunting. 100%. I would much rather be Luke Humphries than Michael Smith in this draw.
I think Luke Humphries has to be pleased because, like you say, Keegan Brown or Florian Hempel, both of these players have had brief purple patches. Keegan Brown winning a Pro Tour out of nowhere. Florian Hempel knocking Dimitri out last year with a fantastic performance. But Florian Hempel had to come through the German Super League to seal his spot here. I mean, he was not getting there on the rankings. He's not had a great year. He's not kicked on from that World Championship performance, unfortunately for Florian. He'll be hoping that the big stage brings his best out of him again. Vincent van der Voort, we know all about, is very hard to rely on. Cam Menzies will be pleased to get Diogo Portela, who he should beat, but another player that I can't really trust over a long format, So Luke Humphries will be delighted in terms of making round 4. Then Dave Chisnall, I think, Chizzy at the Worlds, you just can't write him off, but then you also can't hang your hat on him. It's just one of those that you've kind of got to go into and watch with an open mind. I mean, at times this year, he's been unplayable. When he won his Euro Tour, when he won Players' Championship against Josh Rock, is just ridiculous when he's peppering them 180s. So I'm not going to write Chizzy off. I think Chizzy has got maybe the worst round 2 draw of the lot if Andrew Gilding gets past Rob Owen, because Gilding's just like, we've talked about it before, unfashionable player, but God, he's so dangerous. Like, he can just casually average 103, 104, no problem. And we've seen him do it on TV finally this year, which was his old crux. That's why he lost his tour card originally, because he was a floor demon and just couldn't do anything on the telly. Now he looks quite comfortable on the telly. I would have been with Andrew Gilding against virtually any seed odds against, but I don't know about against Chizzy. I think I'll just have to put my feet up and watch that one. Chizzy's the man that I see causing Luke Humphries the biggest problems in that bottom section of quarter 2. Stephen Bunting, I can't trust. I actually think Gaten Entjes on a going day would beat him. But yeah, it's between Humphries and Chisnall in that little section for me. And then I think Mike Smith will be fairly confident. But yeah, like you say, there's enough banana skins there to put you off him in round 3 and 4.
Michael Smith 13-8 for the quarter. Humphries 9-4, Chisnall 6, Cullen 13-2, Heta 7, and 33 in bigger the rest. Gilding's 40, for example. So yeah, it's short enough, but like I say, you'd be more comfortable backing Humphries than Smith in that section. On to quarter 3, Peter Wright, reigning champ, didn't play in the Players' Championship finals. Hopefully everything's okay now. He's the headline act in there alongside, as you can see, the names on the list. There's one name in this quarter, Pyman, that most darts fans looking at the draw were going to be, and the players actually. Every single seed wanted to avoid this player. Unfortunately, Callum Rydz did not avoid him. And the name is Josh Rock. Josh Rock will beat, or should be, Jose Justicia, or however you say his name, in the first round. And Callum Rydz is banging trouble. Josh Rock at the weekend in the Players' Championship finals went out first round against a career best Cameron Menzies. Career best. He was fantastic, best I've ever seen him. And Rock would have been disappointed with that. There was all talking about another potential rematch with Van Gerwen in round 2. It didn't happen. Menzies put paid to that. But then Rock returned on the same stage on Sunday evening before the final of the Players' Championship finals to win the World Youth Championship, as we expected him to, averaging 104 and winning 6-1, Pyman. So he can do it on the big stage. It's only recently he's been playing his trade there. I think that Rock, this is a good draw for him, and I think it's better that he's in the first round. If he'd have gone on a mad run towards the end of this season, he could have been a ranked player in the top 32. He didn't get there in the end. I think he was 48, and he is as we speak. I think Josh Rock has got the opportunity here against Jose first round, win that, nice 2-0 win there, and then Rydz. I think that's a lovely draw for him. For Josh Rock, I think he can grow into the tournament, and then next thing you know, Nathan Aspinall, dinger.
Yeah, everyone was looking for Rock, weren't they, on the draw? He was ball number 1, and I was watching it. It was like an FA Cup draw, and it's like the one you don't want to pull. But yeah, look, this quarter is so stacked. I was thinking, who are the players that I fancy most for the quarter? I'm sure that the quarter betting may not quite reflect this, but it may do. I was thinking, I can't believe I have got Dimitri Van den Bergh as the 5th most dangerous man in a quarter. I don't know. I don't know if the market will reflect that, but on the form, you have to say that reigning world champion Peter Wright, Johnny Clayton, who made the semi-finals of the Players' Championship finals looking, resplendent. Nathan Aspinall, who's been in fantastic form for the last 3 months, consistently making the back end of tournaments. Josh Rock, the rising star that everyone's talking about. And then Dimitri. Now, I'm not saying that's market order. I have not looked at that quarter betting. I don't know if you've got it in front of you.
I've got
I would guess that Okay, let me try and guess the order of these in the market. Peter Wright's got to be top of the shop. Then it's very difficult, isn't it? I'd probably go Clayton.
Yeah.
And then maybe Aspinall.
Bye. I'm going to have to interrupt you there.
It's Dimitri, isn't it? And then Aspinall, then Rock.
So quarter one.
This quarter market is red hot, by the way, isn't it? What a market.
Quarter one, the lowest priced unranked player is 22-1, Simon Whitlock. Yep.
Yeah.
Quarter two, the lowest priced unranked player is Cameron Menzies, 33, Gilding at 40. Quarter three, the lowest price actually, I'll give you quarter four first, just skipping ahead. Quarter four, the lowest priced unranked player is Scott Williams at 66-1. Yes, Scott Williams, 66-1. So what have I said? 22, 33, and 66. The lowest priced unranked player in quarter three is Josh Rock, and he's 4-1. So it goes 15-8 Snake, 100-30 the Ferret, 4-1 the Rock, 9-2 Dimitri, 13-2 Nathan.
Yeah, God. You could just make a case for whatever order you gave me them. You could have made a case for backing the outsider because all five of them are expecting. They really believe that they can not just win this quarter, win the World Championship. All five of them, I really do think that. Like Dimitri Vandenberg's form is a concern, big concern. But what he does have in his favour is his World Championship record is pretty immaculate, and he generally delivers his best starts on the Ali Pali stage. He'll be fairly happy with his draw. I mean, Roby John Rodriguez is a stern test in round two. But I think in terms of the seed he's been paired with, Christoph Ratajski is beatable if he does get to round three. Peter Wright's had a lovely draw, I think. Probably playing Mickey Mansell in round two, who's a steady Eddie, capable of the odd ridiculous average on the floor, but not that much on the stage. And then Kim Huybrechts, when he's hot, but when he's not, he's not. And I think Wright will be quite happy with that. In fact, Keane Barry probably fancies turning Kim Huybrechts over on recent form as well. A good run at the Players' Championship. Johnny Clayton, as I say, looks like he's coming back to form at just the right time. I'm not going to say he's quite peak Ferret yet, but the last two tournaments, he's certainly looked more like his old self. Players' Championship, there's some immaculate finishing in there, which, is what you associate with Johnny Clayton, really. Tidying things up, very pop, no messing. And that's a really good sign for Ferret backers. He has drifted for the majority of the second half of the year in this market, back out to a kind of mid-tier player, which is right. But, we also know that he does have a game in there to contend. So that is an interesting runner. Steve Beaton or Danny Van Tripe, he should have the measure of them, really. And he'll be happy with being next to Brendan Dolan in terms of the seed. And then this bit at the bottom is just mouth-watering, isn't it? I mean, I don't think Nathan Aspinall should overlook Boris Kirchner if he's to play Boris. He's dangerous, especially over a short format. I mean, he's made Pro Tour finals and he's beat all kinds of players. He's beat Price, Van Gerwen, all sorts. So he's not one to be overlooked. On the form, you would say Asp gets through to round three. Josh Rock, I said it to you on message. I think in terms of what you can expect from this draw as an unranked player, that's a dream draw. Jose Justicia, as you say, very beatable. Gets him some experience on the stage. He then comes up against Callum Ridge, who Ridge has been scratching around for a bit of form this year. He's shown little flashes here and now and then, but really it's not been a good year for Ridge at all. He'd have been hoping for a nice, easy round two game to kind of ease himself in. And instead he's got like the whirlwind behind him. And let's not forget, Josh Rock is going to have the crowd right behind him here. He's the buzz man of this tournament. And if there wasn't already hype around him, when he hit that 9-darter against Van Gerwen on his big TV, the first game with all the eyes on him, I would say, he's got a huge fan base already. Potential rematch with Nathan Aspinall in round three. Don't forget Josh Rock on his TV debut played Nathan Aspinall and beat him 10-8 only about 6 weeks ago. So he'll fancy that. It's a mouth-watering quarter. Really is. And Josh Rock, I think he's got to be happy with where he's landed.
I'm looking through the names, Pie Man, and I don't know if there's anyone that I would have rather Josh Rock drew in round one. In terms of Josh Rock winning as a Josh Rock fan or hype. They could have drawn lower ranked players, like Mensah, who's going to play slowly and upset his rhythm, or Mervyn King, who's, the old wily fox, or, Vincent, maybe Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
But Gurney, I think Gurney's in awful form, but he knows his way. He knows how to wind people up and that. I just can't think of anyone better. Callum Ritz made a semi-final at the Players' Championship last week, averaging 87, 86, 91, and 90. Well, we lost the latter. I just think it's just a perfect draw for Josh Rock. First round, second round, potentially the third round as well. Aspinall's good.
What I will say about Ridge in his defence, I mean, let's not forget he was a quarter finalist last year. He took Peter Wright all the way. He obviously does like this stage. The speed and tempo of this game will suit him. I mean, if they both play well, it's potential game of the round, Ridge versus Rock. But you just have to say on the last 6 months that Callum Ridge is not a top 32 player at the moment, and Josh Rock is a top.
Well, Callum Ridge is 150 to 1.
Player?
Callum Ridge is 150 to 1 to win the tournament. Josh Rock's best price 16 to 1. Couple of other players in that court that you mentioned. Kim Hybretts, I'll be very quick. You say he blows hot and cold. He averaged 100, nearly 101 in the first round, beating Barney over the weekend. Next round, averaged 84 and got smashed 6-1. Nothing else to add there. And Dimitri has been awful this year. For the standards, obviously he's a lot better than me, but for the standards he set in winning majors and making finals, I think he lost the match play final, not too long ago to Peter Wright, etc. He's been awful. He's done nothing on the tour. He's done nothing on TV. At the weekend, he was averaging 88, 90, and 92. That is not the form of a player with his reputation, and it just goes to show that he's only ranked 15th. Dimitri Van den Bergh. If we'd have recorded this video this time a year ago, Pieman, we would have been surprised that Dimitri is outside the top 10, comfortably outside the top 10. He's probably closer to 20th ranked on points than he is the 10th. But anyway, brilliant quarter. I've had a bit of an up and down relationship with Josh Rock in the last few weeks, as you know, Pieman, because 1 minute I'm thinking, he's way too short. And then he kind of first round Grand Slam, nervous, made it through, brilliant against Van Gerwen, as we've mentioned. Players' Championship, goes out the first round, didn't do a lot wrong, and back down on him. And then I see him Sunday night averaging 104 in a final, a genuine final. And then I'm back up on him, and then he's had this draw, and then I'm back up on him again. He's 16 to 1. It's a mad price. But look, I think he'll have he's in the third round for me. At least
people need to realise as well, if you're coming to get involved now, that we're saying this 16 to 1 is short. He's a very difficult player to price. Very difficult player to price, because we haven't got a huge sample size of him on TV. What we have seen is very, very exciting, but we've also never seen him take on this kind of challenge. And this is a huge challenge, the World Championship. It's intense media scrutiny. I mean, if he gets to round 3, round 4, he's going to be doing interviews 6-7 times a day. I can only imagine what it's going to be like back home in Northern Ireland. They've been dying for a prospect like this in any kind of sport. So it's great for them to have that around him. But he's got potential. You've also got to remember that the price is also affected by the liability that has been racked up by bookmakers who've had him at 3 figures and have racked up, I would speculate that some bookmakers are riding on him for, 5 to 6 figures payouts. So they're not going to take any more risks after seeing what he's done against Van Gerwen. But, realistically, is he in the top 5 favourites to win the tournament? No. But he's in the top 10, 15. He's got a sniff. And he's going to be an exciting one to watch, regardless of whether you're on him or not.
Moving on to quarter 4, we could say this about every quarter, we probably already have, but look at the names littered in here. Van Gerwen won the Players' Championship over the weekend, match play champion, Premier League champion this year. He's probably playing the best I've seen him in about 3 or 4 years. We've been on this video. This is the 3rd time we've done the World's Pieman on this channel, and we've said Van Gerwen's not quite at the peak he was. Still fantastic, but not quite as dominant as he was. He's come down a bit. The gap's closed on him a little bit. I think this year he's the standout player as we stand now. He's the 11-4 favourite across the board. It was only 2 or 3 months ago he would have been a similar price, around 4 to 1 with Gerwin Price. He is now standalone favourite in that market. And he was majestic at times over the weekend in the Players' Championship. 100 and I think he averaged 110 in one game. Obviously, at a 9-darter in the final against Rob Cross, someone else who is also in this quarter. I mean, just the top 3 there: Van Gerwen, Dirk, and Ross. Ross Smith. I mean, Ross Smith, recent major winner. Rob Cross is in the bottom half here. It's absolutely littered with great players. There's three former world champions in this quarter. Man, I'll let you mention the one that I have not mentioned to this stage, the 11 seed.
Yeah, the great Gary Anderson. I mean, how can we overlook him? I mean, he's back, of course, as
Not
we've seen
practicing.
in recent months. We've seen it. He's back. No, in all seriousness, Gary Anderson. I've defended him stoutly throughout the year, as I always like to do, but he's at real risk of plummeting down the rankings now. And lest we forget, 2 years ago when we first covered this, Gary Anderson made the final against the odds against Gerwyn Price. That prize money will be disappearing on the 2-year cycle from him. So the earlier Gary Anderson goes out, the more damage it's going to do to his ranking. And if he was to plummet outside the top 32, does he decide to pack it in and call it a day? I don't know. That's one for Gary Anderson to decide. He seems to change his mind from interview to interview. I'll still be rooting for him. But yeah, here we go. So the top quarter, Michael van Gerwen, around 3-1 out right now, 11-4. I mean, he's been much bigger earlier in the year. It's been slowly trimmed with each passing month as he continues to confirm what you've just said, that it does look like he is back to very near peak MVG. I mean, that performance against Rob Cross in the Players' Championship final was obscene. 9 data in there, a 170 in there. He went off with 6 perfect darts on 3 or 4 separate occasions. Really, really ridiculous levels of darts. It was only a couple of I think he had a couple of 21 dart legs in there and still averaged 105, 106. So, if you trim them 21s into 12s, we're talking like record-breaking final averages. It's a crazy standard he's setting. Can you get it with anyone at 11-4 in this climate? It'll vary from person to person. I mean, I personally think, when even if he has that dream run through, he's going to have to overcome a Peter Wright or a Gerwyn Price in a final, and them two are world champions who will relish the task. So it wouldn't be my idea of a bet in this kind of field. But I can't discourage anyone from backing Van Gerwen either. If you like to back a jolly, there'll be some people thinking 11-4, yes, please. And if that's your kind of party, good luck to you. He's had a nice round 1, round 2 draw for what it's worth. Neither of them two going to be giving him any trouble, I wouldn't have thought. It might actually be one of my mates that gives him his sternest examination if he can get there. The real deal, Mike De Decker. I'm a big fan of Mike De Decker. I think he's shown he's starting to come good on his potential in the last 2 or 3 months. I think if he gets past Jeff Smith in round 1, I could see him taking care of Mensur in round 2. And then that would set up a round 3 showdown with MVG. I don't know if he can go with MVG over 7 sets, but I think De Decker, it would be nice to see him starting to follow through on his potential, because he reminds me of a few other players in this field where, he's just a serial 180 hitter. I mean, he can hit the biggest average on any given Pro Tour, no problem. And we've seen him do that on a few occasions at the back end of the year. So, yeah, very interested to see how he goes. I mean, we're only getting started with this quarter, really. As you say, Dirk van Duijvenbode and Ross Smith. I mean, that is unfortunate that them two have ended up in the same little mini bracket. Well, that's what happens when you're in around that 14, 15, 16 section of the rankings. You get another really solid ranked player in your mini section. Like, if you fast forward to this, and I mean, that is discounting the likes of Karel Sedlacek, dangerous player, Darius Labanauskas, dangerous player.
9
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't discount them lightly. But on all the form we've seen recently, the thought of Dirk van Duijvenbode and Ross Smith over 7 sets is absolutely mouthwatering. Ross Smith talking a 180 hitting, serial 180 hitting. I mean, Ross Smith appears to have, his darts appear to have a magnet on the treble 20 in the last month or so. European champion, of course. Dirk van Duijvenbode, a multiple finalist this year. We talk about Dirk as a potential world champion. I think on ability, yes. We've questioned his temperament a couple of times. Will he be able to go through 6 matches at Ali Pali without having one of his flat patches? I mean, he had a flat patch at the weekend when he looked primed to go and win that Players' Championship. Yeah. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But I think those two will meet in round 3. I think that'll be a cracker. Rob Cross, I mean, if he played anyone else but Van Gerwen yesterday, he wins, in my opinion. I think he averaged 106 and lost. So, I mean, there's unlucky.
Just his scoring is just It's a vast improvement.
Yeah.
His scoring and consistency of scoring has been much better. He's just been getting gradually better, Cross, throughout the year. He's not been in the Premier League. He's not been on that World Tour thing with Fallon Sherrock and the like. And he's just been chipping away and getting better and better and better. And
I think you're
like you
right.
say, he's made the final.
The two treble visits are what it is for me with Cross. You know, he used to throw a lot of tons and 97s, but now he seems to be finding 134s, 140s again. And, you know, when you're nicking an extra 40 points a visit, that's so big. I mean, it gets you another dart at double most legs. Um, the other thing about Cross, you know, the way he likes to step away from the board. Sometimes when he's not playing well, you can look at that and think that it's to his detriment. But at the moment, he's just looking so assured. You know, if he's got a three dart combination, he'll take the treble 19. He'll take a step back. He'll have a think, and he'll still hit the next treble. You know, no problem.
He
So
hit 143 at the weekend, and it was just class.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And he get thing I like about Cross as well from a hardcore darts fan perspective, he goes some unusual routes on his finishing. Like he keeps you on his toes. Loves the treble 18s. Yeah, it's just good to watch. Really good to watch, and really glad to see him back at his best. He's got a really tough. I think this is the game around one. This Scott Williams versus Ryan Joyce, because Ryan Joyce is, you know, tried and tested campaigner at the Worlds, been into the last 16 even, but had to go through this last gasp qualifier to get in there.
Yep.
And he played really well today to get in there. Fair play to him. He's played really well for the last month. He bumps into Scott Williams, who is, you know, someone we're a massive fan of, Pro Tour event winner, despite not holding a PDC Tour card. Challenge Tour, he's qualified via. Did not look out of place at the Grand Slam of Darts at all. Very nearly qualified from the group of death alongside, you know, Luke Humphries and Josh Rock and co. So he'll fancy it. Either one of them will fancy it against Cross over a short format. So it's a tough opener for Cross, but my lord, is he in good form. Same can't be said for Merv King, unfortunately.
No,
tough old
he won't be in the top 32 this time next year.
Tough old year for
Merv.
Yeah. And this is coming from a fully blown Merv. I hate to say it, but I mean, he's got a tough old draw against Matt Campbell or Danny Baggish. I mean, on recent form, you'd have to say Matt Campbell, but don't sleep on Danny Baggish either, because I mean,
that's Danny's a good draw. That is.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the highest of quality, but it's up there.
They're like your favourite players.
Very closely matched.
They're like your favourite players that aren't top 32 players. You know what I mean?
It's like whoever's the outsider in that game. Honestly, whoever's the outsider in that game, back them.
Well, yeah, Danny's shown that he can rise to the occasion at the World Championships as well. You know, with his victory over Adrian Lewis and stuff, and Matt Campbell. Yeah, I mean, I feel like every time we talk about Matt Campbell, we talk about how underrated he is. I mean, eventually we have to just admit that he's a good player. Look, he had Danny Noppert right on the rack at the Players' Championship. That was a really good game. Lost 10-9 in the end. And then this bottom section, a player that we haven't mentioned yet, who I think will be very happy with his draw, Chris Dobey, a man who has threatened to start to deliver on the form and the promise that we always know he has had. He's had quite a good year, to be honest, and he'll fancy his round 2 draw against Claymaker or the Chinese qualifier. And from there, he's probably going to play Gary Anderson.
Ooh.
And even I have to say that Chris Dobey will fancy that. But Anderson, with his World Championship ranking points on the line, he brings his best to Ali Pali. There is something for the Anderson fans still to cling on to, that we could have a little run into maybe round 4 and then see what happens.
Yeah, so we always talk about price, not going price, bookmaker prices. Josh Rock 16-1 that we mentioned in the last quarter. Now this is a much tougher quarter with bigger names or you know, more informed players. He's half the price of Rob Cross and half the price of Dirk van Dijvenbode, that are both available at 33-1. And you could say that they're potentially in the best form of their careers, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh Rock's half the price of them boys.
Yeah, again, what I say about Rock, this is more the bookies taking cover. I'm not sure he's a 16-1 chance, but you know, he's certainly not the 200, 400-1 chance that some bookies have liabilities with. So you can't blame them for taking cover. But if you're getting involved today and you just want to get on the Josh Rock hype train, I would urge you to maybe look to slightly better value in the names you have just alluded to.
Prices for the last and final quarter of the fourth quarter. Van Gerwen is odds on, the only odds on shot in the quarter betting, followed by Cross at 5, Dirk 11-2, Gary Anderson 10, Ross Smith 11, Dobie 12, and Bigger the rest. There is potentially, Pineman, 3 players in there in that quarter that will not be seeded next year. Mensah and Merv, which would be odds on, and I'd go as far. Gary Anderson is going to plummet down them rankings because
I think that's
his ranking
totally
points, as you allude to, and you understand it better than me and explain it better than me, his ranking points have been earned in the last 2 years in very, very big tournaments like the World Championship. If he goes out of this early doors against the likes of Dobie, his ranking is going to plummet. Definitely.
Oh, it really will plummet. He's going to lose, 6 figures of ranking money very soon, and that's going to do damage to anyone. Look, this quarter's Van Gerwen deserves to be odds on, but I think purely from a value perspective, you've got to play somebody at the prices you just announced there. You've got to play somebody in them bottom 4 games, to potentially meet Van Gerwen or someone else to win the quarter. I think Rob Cross. Did you say he was 6-1 there, Rob Cross?
Yeah, 5. Second favourite.
5-1. Yeah, well, I mean, look, that would do me as an interest bet, to be honest. I think Rob Cross, on form, should be getting to a showdown with Van Gerwen. And then if that is the case, then you've got him at 5-1, haven't you? So.
Yeah. Right, we've been on a long time. We've mentioned all sorts of names here. The plan is we're going to be back with a betting preview.
Best quarter by quarter, probably, I would say.
Yeah. I just think we're going to come on, find and watch your best bets and fire away from there. And then we've half committed to doing a preview video, only 2 or 3 minutes on all 96 players. Now, it is going to be a challenge for Pineman to be given 2 minutes of his time to talk about Turo Suzuki, Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, it's not going to be as much of a challenge as you think.
And Paolo Nibrida, for example. But that's what we're going to try and do. We've got 18 days to do it. The first ones will be up tomorrow, starting with the usual suspects and going down the list of the 96. But yeah, Pineman, I mean, you know plenty about Prakashi Jiwa. So I look forward to your thoughts on him and the likes of Zicheng Han as well.
Return for Prakash, yeah. No, you'll be, let's just say you'll be well educated by the time I get through them.
Right, so the one question before we go, you've got 20 seconds. Who would you back as of today, right now?
Right now, Danny Nopp at 40-1.
Yeah.
Just value. It's all about price, as we say. Likeliest winner is obviously Van Gerwen on the form. Who do I hope wins? Josh Rock, obviously. But yeah, I think just purely from a value perspective, Danny Nopp at 40-1. Yeah,
fair enough. Though there's the say. All sorts covered there. Let us know in the comments who you fancy, who's had a good draw, who's had a bad draw. And thanks for watching. If you made it this far, all sorts of content coming your way from Doubles and Trebles in the next few weeks as we look forward to the World Championship of Darts. Thanks for watching.